Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Greg. Welcome to Buckeye Freight Rail. And I went to go up to the house on the hill, and there's a train parked up there. It's a Norfolk Southern. So I wanted to come back down here into Carlisle and get him in full. And as soon as I got here, B505, a big steel train came through. And there was somebody down on the siding in Carlisle. He's coming up now. And so you'll see the B505 train first, and then M558, and then hopefully the Norfolk Southern will come down. Thanks for watching, guys. Well, guess what, guys? Pulled into Carlisle here. Was on my way to house on the hill, but I saw a train was coming. Got to Carlisle here and got stopped here before I get over there. Usually film from right over there in that area, across the tracks. Well, we got a CSX coming. Not sure what it is, but he's coming at you. Oh. Guys, that is B505. He's going to Middletown with some steel. All right. B505 out. There you go. All right, this is where we usually sit here in Carlisle. All right, thanks for watching, guys. M558 coming up, and he's got something different on the front. Looks like a CN. I haven't seen a Canadian National locomotive in eons. Here we go. interesting train. He had 3 CNs up front, 1 in the middle. Guys, we just don't see that around here. I'm not even sure that was 558 now. I'm gonna have to go back to the radio and see what's going on here. That might have been a reroute. I'm not sure. Help me out if you know any of those CN locomotives that were kind of gray and blue. Not familiar with those, but all right, guys. Interesting train. Thanks for watching. All right, we got NS 179 coming down. This is the train that was stopped up at House on the Hill. Well, half of it was. I just wanted to come down here and get him in full. Coming at you. Going to Irondale, Alabama. There you go, NS 179 heading to Irondale, Alabama, out of Bellevue, Ohio. All right, thanks for watching, guys. All right, folks, we got M811 coming down. I've never heard of that one. It might be an extra 511 because he runs the same route, Detroit, Michigan to Cincinnati. Coming around the corner now. Why they just didn't say X511, I'm not sure. If you know, let me know. Coming at you. Right, there you go. That is M811. At least that's what he calls out. So he's heading to Cincinnati out of Detroit, Michigan. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. All right, we got a train coming up. I've heard L423. I've heard M560. I'm not sure which it is. We'll find out, though. All right, here he comes. Coming at you. string of boxcars. That is M560 Cincinnati to Syracuse, New York. All right, guys. It feels like 100 degrees out here, even though it's only 88. But I think I'm going to go home and get in the AC and rehydrate here. So appreciate you guys watching this video. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. Doesn't cost you nothing. Helps me out to bring you more videos. Thanks for watching, guys.